We're ready to go.
Council has the most important people it has here.
Okay.
She doesn't sound
Nobody sounds convinced.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out. Yeah, we have DEI. I'm looking for, oh, Crystal's there. Okay.
Recording in progress.
And Rick is there and Chris. Okay, I think we're good to go. So I'll call the meeting to order. Hang on one sec. Welcome, everybody. Such a nice day out. Okay. Adoption of the agenda. Well, the Richmond Board of Education acknowledges and thanks First Peoples of the Hunkaminam Language Group, on whose traditional and unceded territories we teach, learn, and live. Adoption of the agenda. Is there anything else to place on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. People have disappeared from my screen. Hang on. Seeing no additional agenda items, I'd like to, I'm looking for someone to approve the agenda. Heather and Alexa, thank you. And all those in favor, Heather and Alexa, myself. Okay, we have an agenda. Approval of the minutes. So I need a motion to, thank you. And Heather, for the minutes, thank you. Okay, standing item. So this is the traffic safety advisory. Sonali Hingarani, did I say that right?
You said it perfectly. Thank you very much.
Wow, okay, thank you. Take it away.
Sure. As noted in the meeting package that you have for today, the detailed minutes are attached from the TSAC meeting. It took place in January, earlier this year. I'll provide some highlights that were discussed at that meeting regarding a couple of schools. The first one is with respect to Burnett Secondary. Staff met with the PAC chair and the principal regarding traffic and pedestrian safety issues that were raised by the school. One of the key issues was about parents dropping off and picking up students on Granville Avenue and on the adjacent roadways during those times. Targeted enforcement was conducted and tickets were issued regarding violations related to parking on the street in areas that aren't permitted to do such. And our bylaws officers have advised that they will continue to schedule enforcement in this area to address this issue if it continues. We haven't received any concerns further to that from the school. At Burnett, there is a pedestrian crosswalk on, it's a raised crosswalk in front of the school on Granville Avenue, and staff are also reviewing the pedestrian signal and movements associated with that area in response to a school request as well. The second school that was discussed at the TSAC meeting was Brighouse, and similar to the Burnett issues, there was a request to review the parking and associated enforcement that could be undertaken on the roadways surrounding that school as well. So bylaw officers did go out and target enforcement, and tickets were issued in December, and they'll continue to schedule enforcement in the area again as well. And concerns have not been received from the school after those enforcement activities were undertaken. And that's the update for this item on the agenda.
Hey, are there any questions at all?
Can I just interrupt here a second?
Yeah.
We've got a huge echo here. I don't know if people aren't speaking can turn off their mics.
I don't know why. My mic needs to be on, but I have no idea why there's an echo. Just, I had, well, a comment, especially about Burnett, because I drive through there on a regular basis, and it is quite a mess. So I'm glad you're stepping up enforcement and as well, looking into the issue, because their concerns are bona fide for sure. If you drive through there, especially at pickup time, can be pretty crazy, and that that corner is a bit complicated. So just thankful that you're responding to the parent requests there. That sounds good. So does anybody else have any comments on that? Okay, moving on. And I just lost my agenda. I have to pull it up again. Hang on one sec. We have the childcare update. Chris Dugan. Chris, you there?
Chris is not in, but I'm
Okay.
here. This is Dorothy,
Okay.
and I can give an update on behalf of Chris.
Perfect.
Yeah. The 2022 update to the childcare needs assessment and strategy has been completed, and this will be presented to Richmond City Council at an upcoming meeting and shared with this committee following that presentation. This is the final report on the current strategy and the development of a new 10-year childcare needs assessment strategy is underway.
Okay. So that's everything on the childcare.
Yes, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions on the report? Okay, we're moving along pretty quickly. The joint city and district program committee. Update from the City of Richmond school staff. So Rick, are you doing that update, or is it Chris?
Yeah, Chris, Assistant Superintendent Stanger will be providing an update.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Stanger. You're muted.
Sorry about that. There, I got that. Yeah, we've had active meetings with our joint city and district program committee. Recently, at the last meeting, we had an opportunity to talk about our affordability fund. And certainly if there are questions regarding that, Assistant Superintendent Jane McMillan could answer any questions regarding that. We also had a wonderful opportunity to talk about some of the library resources that the city is providing in some of the early literacy programs that are underway through the city, and trying to reach some alignment with some of the things and some connections, bridging connections with some of our staff. And so at our upcoming meeting, which is happening now, it's moved to May, we're going to have Rebecca Rubio, one of our library consultants, sharing some of the resources and strategies, literacy strategies that we're using in the district, and to try to see if we can have some alignment with some of the resources and some of the strategies that we're using there. We also spent a little bit of time talking about our youth intervention programs that we're focusing on, and some of the funding that we have to create positions to support youth, particularly around mental health issues, and how we're using cross-agency connections to be able to have wraparound supports for students. So those were some of the key topics that we attended to at the last meeting. Looking forward to our upcoming meeting. We're going to have an update regarding the new funding announcement from the Ministry of Education regarding food security. So we'll be sharing some of that strategies, those strategies, and how we'll use that. We'll also be sharing a little bit of an update around how we've been supporting families families through the Family Affordability Fund. And I think it's really interesting information to share, because while many of us may sort of have the perception that, you know, families have the capacity to make sure that their children have lunches and breakfast and those kind of things, the reality is, given the current conditions and coming out of the pandemic, many families continue to have significant struggles. And so these resources have been extremely helpful for us to ameliorate some of the pressures that families have been feeling, particularly around food. And so providing breakfasts, those kind of things. And some of the feedback that we've had from students, you know, quite poignantly have been that, you know, one of the things that really sets them up for success in the day is when they arrive at school and they know that they can get a breakfast sandwich, that kind of thing. And so that's been wonderful. And because of those funds, we've also been able to assist with other things, such as clothing, athletics, a variety of other things. And so we're really fortunate and grateful for the ongoing funding that's coming with that. At the upcoming meeting, so share a little bit about mental health initiatives that we're doing. And as I said, we'll have Rebecca Rubio there. So very, very productive discussions that we've been having, and of course, very appreciative of the ongoing relationship between us and the city.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions on the report? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Just wanted to let everyone know we did have the minister announce oh gosh, it's the new, they're called, what, Mr. Stranger, can you tell me what the new fund is called? I forget my memory's eluding me.
Sure. Yeah, it's our new Extended Affordability Fund, Family Affordability Fund, and we have a different acronym. And Jane McMillan, our Assistant Superintendent, if it's helpful to have additional comments, could certainly provide that.
Yeah. Is Jane here?
Yeah, sorry, my mouse is not.
It might be good to update everyone. I know Alexa was at the announcement yesterday, but you know, it might be of interest because we did get some figures on how much extra we're getting too, which is nice. So maybe you can give us a little bit.
Good morning, everyone. It is called and I actually had to call it up to make sure I get the title just right, the Feeding Futures School Food Programs Fund. And so that was announced in Richmond yesterday for the province. Richmond is receiving, I believe, $2.3 million. And what that is as we've moved the one-time funding this year for the Student and Family Affordability Fund, what we're moving into now is this fund specifically around nutritional supports. We were, there to hear it live yesterday. And of course, our next step now is to move into planning, meeting with our Secretary Treasurer and other folks who are involved in implementation supports to plan the initial steps and start thinking ahead to next year on how we can best use those funds and disperse them in ways that are really, really supportive for families.
And it did result, I got word this morning that that's about $407,000 more than what we received last year.
Yes, yeah, the Student and Family Affordability Fund was $1.96 million. Yeah.
And trustees did advocate to the minister, and she acknowledged that one-time funding is not helpful, that we need ongoing funding. And so that, I think they've committed for 3 years. We said yesterday. So that was really helpful to hear. And I think within it, there's some flexibility on what you can use it for. So I guess there's more to come, but it was a good news announcement. Okay, is there anything else on this item? Okay, thank you. Future agenda items. I know, we've talked about this before. Are there any future agenda items from council or anything that this committee wants to consider bringing to the next meeting? Okay. We'll have to, I'm sure something will come up. And business arising, new business. So the McNeely Elementary School lane delineators, and that's Sonali Higurani again.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I believe this topic also came up at our last meeting about the in-street plastic delineators in front of the school exit that were restricting turning movements by parents wanting to exit left instead of having to make the right out to Woodhead Road and further to number 5 Road where queues were developing. And in response to such requests received to remove the delineators that restricted those outbound movements, staff went out and met on site with the school principal to confirm the request and review the site conditions. A notice to the affected residents have been sent out to advise of the removal of these plastic delineators, and staff anticipate that the removal will take place at the end of this month, and we'll be coordinating with the school to determine the best time to do that work. And with those delineators removed, this will then allow traffic exiting the school to make the left onto McNeely Road to balance out traffic flows and reduce those queues potentially that were being observed on Woodhead Road near number 5 Road.
Okay, because I guess when I was reading through it, it looked like it was recommended not to remove them. So they are going to remove the.
Yes, that was the request received, and based on site analysis, we confirmed that we can do that, and so they will be removed to allow for additional turning movements at that exit.
Good. Okay. Are there any comments on that item? Seeing none. Oh, we're just humming through this. Okay. DEI update, and that would be our Assistant Superintendent, Crystal Brodigan.
Thank you, Chairperson Plotney. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here this morning to give you a brief update on our diversity, equity, and inclusion work. I thought I'd start with a bit of a timeline. I think it's been about a year since I've spoken at this meeting. So in the fall of 2020, the board established a diversity and anti-racism working group. And through that group in the spring and fall of 2021, we conducted an external audit with the support of Bacau Consulting in Vancouver. And then through the winter of 2022, the Diversity and Anti-Racism Working Group analyzed the results of that audit. And also during that time, we added 2 staff, a district administrator for equity and inclusion and a teacher consultant for equity and inclusion to help us get our work underway. And then in the spring of 2022, we brought the recommendations as a result of that audit to the Board of Education and established 9 priorities going forward, one of which was establishing a diversity, equity, and inclusion advisory committee to oversee those 9 priorities that were approved by the Board of Education in the spring of 2022. So the mandate for that advisory committee, as well as the work of our strategic priority to equity and inclusion, has really been shaping and informing the work that we are doing, which includes developing an employee-focused DEI implementation strategy that is specific to the variety of employee groups that we have in our school district, our educators and non-educators alike, and the learning that will best help support their work that they do on a day-to-day basis. And of course, we are focused on our students and what our students need in terms of their learning as well in the classroom around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and having inclusive schools and safe and brave spaces in our school communities, increasing our student voice in this area and our student leadership in DEI with focus groups and lots of conversation with our students about how it is going for them and what it is that they need to help make our schools more inclusive and those safe and brave spaces that we aspire to be. One of the pieces that we are working on as well is ensuring that when someone has something to report to us, that process is clear and safe, and that the person who is making the report is clear on the process all the way through, and that they feel supported through that process, and that we get to steps of resolution that include restorative processes as well, and learning for everyone, materials for our parent and caregiver community, including our PACs. So some of the work that we've accomplished as an advisory committee so far since the spring of 2022 is to develop a policies checklist that is now used for revision and development of policies. And that checklist was developed through the recommendations of the audit with those DEI principles in mind. So that as policies come to policy committee, that checklist is used to help support the work of revising and developing policies. As I mentioned, we have several student focus groups happening in our schools focused on belonging and fostering that sense of belonging in our schools. We have also been focusing through the last couple of years on leadership development in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and supporting our school leaders, our principals and vice principals, as well as our managers and executive staff, so that they can lead their staffs and their communities with greater understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion principles, and support families and employees when issues come forward, so that they can get to a strong resolution. We've also been undergoing audits in our elementary and secondary school libraries to ensure that our collections are diverse, and also beginning that work in our school book rooms, starting in secondary schools, also looking at those collections there and ensuring that they have diverse representation. And then you may have heard at the end of January, the Ministry of Education and Childcare came out with an anti-racism action plan for K-12. And the contents of that action plan are very supportive of the work that we are doing in the school district. And they have 6 pillars in that action plan, including community voice, removing barriers, raising an awareness, collaborative change, capacity building, and school support. And those dovetail very nicely with the priorities of our advisory committee and our strategic plan. So we're looking forward to more coming out of that action plan, and also how that informs and supports the work that we're doing going forward. So that's my report, and happy to take any questions.
Anybody have questions for Superintendent Brodigan regarding the DEI update? And as you can see, we're doing, that's ensured, the work has ensured that for them. And I just, I had a question on the policy piece, but that's more kind of more internal, because I know we have many policies, and policies take quite a long time to update and change. And I think what we had considered was a consultant. And is there any timeline for that?
So I think in terms of the policy piece, because we also take direction from the policy committee. So as pieces get referred to our committee, we definitely look at that in close detail. So for example, the checklist is a good example of that, in developing that checklist that was approved by policy committee. And then as individual policies get referred to our committee, we of course work on that. And then should we decide to hire an external consultant, we definitely have some ideas of who might best support that work going forward. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we had talked about. So at our next policy committee, I think it might be good to speak about that, because the district has so many policies. So we are looking to update, well, hopefully at some point, all of them, but, stay tuned. But definitely that checklist was extremely helpful to have that DEI lens when setting policy. So are there any more questions from anybody on that update? Heather?
Oh, was Alexa first? Alexa, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Thank you for this. It sounds like exciting work that you're doing
I
here.
don't know, the echo seems to be coming from you, Alexa, for some reason.
Okay.
That's strange. Let's try Heather and see what happens. And then we'll come back to you. Heather?
Can you hear me? Am I echoing?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
that's strange. Okay. Alexa, do you have anything else on it in your speaking? Okay,
Can you hear
go
me?
ahead. Yes, that's better.
Okay, that's better. Okay. I can't hear any. This sounds like exciting work. Can we get a copy of the checklist? Would that be possible for us to take a look at your checklist? And then
Yes.
my second question is, how are you measuring your success or efficacy in this?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Alexa, because of course, a lot of our work is subjective. And so through our work with, particularly with student focus groups and what they are noticing in terms of the work. So one of the discussions that we just had in our advisory committee a couple of weeks ago was, here's the work that we are undergoing as a district so far. As representatives of our stakeholders, where are you noticing the effects of that work and where is it invisible? As a sort of a temperature read on where we need to be more out loud with the work that we're doing. But as we get more initiatives underway, it will make sense for us to either survey or reestablish some of our broader focus groups like we did through the audit process of getting a sense of how our parent community is feeling, for example, what changes, if any, have they noticed as a subjective measure of the success we have. It's a little bit harder to do quantitative analysis of our success because this is really a lot about your feelings of belonging and your experiences as you interact with the school district and the processes that we have. I can tell you that the work that we have been doing has really, I feel, has really increased our listening ear. I think particularly my work is most closely related to schools, principals and vice principals really being attuned to issues around diversity and making shifts as they hear from their parent and student community about barriers to interaction with the school. Maybe that's around filling out forms or permissions or being able to have access to the teacher and support with being able to communicate clearly, whether there's a language barrier and that kind of thing. It's just, and really deepening their understanding of what it means to minimize those barriers as much as possible.
Hey,
Sorry, one last question.
Yeah.
You said safe and something spaces.
Brave.
Both of us missed it.
Safe and brave.
Brave. Thank you.
Yes.
yeah, and you did, Alexa and Andy, you did receive the DEI report, correct? You got a copy of that at some point? Because maybe we could send that along with the checklist. Might be a good idea. Okay. All right. Heather, go ahead.
thank you. Am I echoing?
Nope.
No, good. I have a comment. I am fortunate enough to be one of the reps on this committee. And it's like any committee, we're learning as we go along, and the depth of the thoughts that people are sharing is amazing. And it makes you realize that this is not just a check the box one of this is how we do it only this way, because interpretation of diversity and interpretation of feelings is different for everyone. So it's not like we can come up with a one of answer, but make that rich process is starting, and you can feel it. So I'm most impressed with what's happening, and you can see it starting to filter. And yes, so just wanted to add that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get that down.
And, we're tracking all these things through our strategic plan, which we're updated on quarterly. And it's a very comprehensive plan. It's on our website. Yeah, it's been really, really, really good work. So we're thankful for Crystal's leadership. Okay, is there anything else? Any more questions? All right. My agenda shut down. Okay, hang on one second. No, my dog is starting to complain about me spending time on here. The 2023 active transportation initiatives, and that's Sonali once again. So take it away.
Thank you again, Chairperson. In a report to Council regarding an update on active transportation initiatives for 2023, Council endorsed the recommendation to send a copy of that staff report that included the grade 6 and grade 7 cycling education program to the school board. So if you haven't received it yet, you should be getting a copy from our clerks. The report highlights that over 1,600 students in 19 schools received and participated in this training last year. For this year's program, Hub Cycling, who delivers this program for us, has already scheduled 9 elementary schools for cycling training sessions this spring. They plan to conduct 12 sessions in the spring and then 7 sessions with schools in the fall to cover the other 19 schools, so that all 38 elementary schools students will have received this learn to ride skills over the course of the 2-year period. And another update related to cycling and the school district is that the Bike to School Week that Hub Cycling puts on, that will be at the end of May. It'll run from May 29th to June 2nd, and schools can register to participate and win prizes on the Hub Cycling website. And I believe already in Richmond, about 10 schools have registered for this event. Thank you.
Can you just give me those dates again? Is it May 9th to, what was the week?
May 29th to June 2nd for the Bike to School event.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. It's, it's great that you're helping our kids learn how to bike, because I think sometimes their parents haven't ever ridden a bicycle. It always surprises me when I talk to someone that hasn't, because I ride a bike and I love it. and it gives you, it just gives you a feeling of freedom. And it's with green initiatives, I think it's wonderful to, if you can, travel by bike. I don't always, but it's kind of nice to be able to do that. So I think that's fantastic. Does anybody have any questions for Sonali? I guess, what would be interesting is for trustees and maybe council to have the dates of the training sessions for those schools, and maybe be able to watch and see what the students are actually being taught. I don't know if we can do that, but something to think about. Is that possible? Sonali or maybe one of our staff could answer that question.
With respect to the dates, once those sessions have scheduled, I can request that from Hub Cycling for the various schools.
Well, it might be of interest to trustees or council to see, what's being taught. Maybe we can even enter in on some lessons. Are there lessons for the parents at all? Do you know, do you do any, does Hub do any learn to ride for the parents or offer it through that program?
Yes, absolutely. Hub has a variety of different courses and webinars that are both a mix of virtual and in-person that they offer to the community, and their website lists a lot of that information.
I'm going to go and take a look on their website. That's great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Well, I think that's fantastic that you're doing that, and hopefully we get a bunch of bikers out of it instead of in cars. Okay, I think that's it. Proposed meeting dates. I can't remember if is it September that would be our next meeting date, or are we meeting in June? Does anybody remember?
Chairperson
Yeah.
Tablani, the next two meetings are scheduled for September 13th and November 15th.
Okay, September. That seems like a long way away. I guess if we needed something, we could always schedule, but we are still, I just want to mention, we're still working on our get together with the mayor and council. Our date that we had fell through, and we were thinking of a breakfast meeting because we think maybe that will work better. You know, Alexa and Andy, any help you can give us in getting those dates together would be good. I know our staff is really working on that. Andy, are you saying anything? Did you want to speak to this? Oh, see, now Alexa.
No, I'm back.
Alexa needs to turn her sound off, I think, if you're going to speak.
Oh, is it echoing now, Debbie?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I think it's
no, on the
both of
date
you
thing,
have.
yeah, I recognize there was a complication with it. I think Jillian is the point of contact because she
Yeah.
kind of coordinates the mayor's office, and then on these kind of things, the mayor's office coordinates with the rest of the council. So I'm not exactly sure why that date fell through, but she's the best contact.
Okay. And do you have any idea, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, what's the best time? Is breakfast a better time for that? Can either of you comment?
It's fine.
I think breakfast was better for some people.
Okay.
So I don't know about for the school board, but for the city, for council and the mayor, I think it worked better for a few people.
Yeah. And I think it works for the school district too. So, okay, we'll keep working on it. Hopefully
Okay.
we can get it before fall, but if not,
Yeah.
just keep at it. Okay, thank you. Okay, that's it. I need someone to move adjournment and someone to second adjournment. Okay, Andy and Heather, thank you.